To my beloved Boris, I remember the day that I first met you, the day that you chose to be my partner. You were black as midnight, your eyes warm and longing. The rest of your brothers were rather rambunctious, wild almost, pouncing on the chain link fence and barking for our attention. But there you were, standing there, calmly staring at me. I reached my hand out and you sniffed it. Your tail wagged, even as your litter mates tried to push you out of the way. You were only 10 months old, but you were already full-sized, the top of your head just below my chest. When I told the trainers that I wanted to meet with you one-on-one, she took you out and let you roam. My balance was pretty poor at the time, so I held onto my mother as you trotted around outside with us. You might have mistaken me for one of the volunteers, because it took you some time to warm up to me. I'm sure a lot of people had crossed your path in the short time that you had been alive. But in the end, you chose me. For the first days together, you stood at the door of our cabin for hours, waiting for someone to come and get you. You weren't used to being away from your family. I invited you to sit with me, but you were more interested in standing by the door. You didn't yet trust me, but for 2 weeks we were stuck in a small log cabin so that we could bond and get to know each other. You began to sit on my lap, follow me around, and sleep with me at night. Every day the trainers would take us out to different shopping centers and restaurants so that we could practice walking side by side. You learned my patterns, and I learned yours. I spoke a lot of words that were familiar to you. Already you knew what left and right meant, and that whoa meant stop, and easy meant slow down. You even knew that walk on meant to keep going. From birth you had been trained to help someone. This was old news to you, but with me now by your side, all these words finally held meaning. You noticed that I was different from most people. You saw my wild gait, the leg braces, the wobbly balance. You understood why I needed you at my side. Not just so that I could walk, but so that I could truly live. We took it one step at a time, and within days, we walked in sync and without any falls. I sometimes tripped, but you paused as I pushed myself back into position. It was amazing, and I sped alongside you, up and down staircases and over rocky hills and up curbs, as if we had been together all of my life. Weeks later, you went off to high school with me, helping me up the front steps, ignoring the immaturity of my classmates, and quickly learning my class schedule. In time, you knew exactly when the bells would ring, standing up and nudging me if you sensed that I had lost track of time. You slept through each class period on your blue memory foam mat, and at the end of the day, you would excitedly tug me toward the exit and get on the school bus. The bus drivers always loved you. One of them even bought you a dog bed for you to lie on at the back of the bus. Sometimes, though, you preferred to sit next to me on the bus bench, as though you were a student. When it came to school lockdown drills, you were a pro. The entire class had to squash themselves up against the wall along the door, so that an invader could not know if we were in there. I remember that I pulled you close to me and patted your head. At first, you did not understand why we were all crammed together, but I think that you got the idea after 10 minutes of deafening silence. That's when the police officer knocked on the door to act as the invader. I thought you were going to bark or freak out, but you just stood there, ears perked. The man unlocked the door, and he just about had a heart attack when he saw you. He laughed and said, "Wow, you hit him so well out of view. What a surprise that invader would have had. Is he for a school project?" My classmates chuckled in a chorus, and I limped over to my seat with you, smiling incredulously. Oh, how silly people can be. You were so much more than a project, Boris. You were my hero. I remember your first Christmas with us. We went out to a fine dining restaurant for lunch. Everyone loved your little bow tie and the confident way you carried yourself as you took each step alongside me. When we got to our table, I directed you underneath and you immediately curled yourself under it. A white cloth hung low enough on the table to hide you. I remember that you stayed there for the entire hour-and-a-half meal without any of the other diners noticing as they arrived to enjoy their meal. When the bill had been paid, my fears grew, afraid that you would stand up and flip the entire table over. But to my relief, sweet Boris, you crawled out from under this table without any trouble, and the unsuspecting family beside us gasped in shock at your enormous size. Their expressions were truly priceless. There's no denying that you were a magician in training, able to tuck yourself into a tiny ball if needed. The following year, we visited 3 colleges in Pennsylvania and New Jersey with the help of my mother. This was around the time we decided that a wheelchair would be the best for me to get around these expansive college campuses, so we were working to train you to pull my wheelchair as well. It was the first time you had ever been away from the house for more than a day. But you slept on your blankies in the hotels, sat quietly in the back seat when we drove anywhere, and adapted well to new situations. The first night in the hotel was scary for you because you didn't understand why we weren't going home, but on the second night, you fell asleep from exhaustion. In addition to interesting new living arrangements, you got to see the Amish countryside in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, go out to eat at restaurants, and of course, tour the places that we might possibly come to live in the next year. When we finally did graduate from high school, we packed up everything and moved to a college dorm. You loved pulling my chair across the campus, like a horse galloping or racing past pedestrians on their way to classes. You grew used to our schedule and slept through every lecture. You were not a big fan of the dining hall, but all the employees there absolutely loved seeing you. You would curl up under the table or beside me as we ate with friends. They always made room for you. You mattered, Boris. You mattered to everyone who came to know you. We were lucky enough to have our own apartment together. You were the only roommate that I needed, always ready to help in whatever way that you could. When the winter came around, I'm not sure how I would have survived without you. The snow would often turn to ice hours after it had fallen. By then, hundreds of people would have already marked the sidewalks, now nothing except a bumpy sheet of icy footprints. My wheelchair would get stuck in the divots, and you would yank me out of them again and again. It was only by your strength that I would plow through the rivers of slush, ice, and packed snow. Those responsible for clearing the sidewalks were often too late to help, and when they did remove the snow, the bumpy sheets of frozen snow still remained, so that my front wheels would get stuck. I wore heavy-duty winter gloves, and despite this, I would still get the beginnings of frostbite from my frozen metal rims. I'd even tear muscles in my arms and back from pushing so hard through the inaccessible and snowy sidewalks. You also kept me in a straight path when we hit those long ice patches. Otherwise, I would have just skid off the sidewalks and into a snowbank. You were so strong, Boris. When no one was around to help, you always were. Sometimes we had to leave 30 minutes early just to ensure that we made it to class on time during those long and painful winters. But without you, I'm not sure I could have made it at all. Just think, we never missed a single class. Thank you for that. After 3 winters, we graduated, and that was the end of those long journeys across campus. I'm sure that you missed speeding down the sidewalks on our way home from class and galloping at full speed to a meeting that I was slightly late for. You loved the power that you held. As I moved into my first full-time job, you grew used to the car now taking us everywhere. You embraced it as you did every new adventure. My office was big enough to house a full-size orthopedic dog bed under the desk. That's where you slept for most of the day until it was time for a water break or meeting. You brought joy to everyone that you met. You could read the energy of a room so well and even brought comfort to those that were not feeling their best. And then one day, on a sunny April morning, I held you in my arms as you said goodbye. My world went cold. I couldn't remember who I was without you, because you had been a part of my identity for 7 years. People always saw you first, always asked about you and not the disability. You allowed me to hide the parts of myself that I was not proud of, and for that, I cannot thank you enough. Thank you for allowing me to be whoever I wanted to be at your side. Thank you for letting me know which people to trust and which to not. Thank you for protecting me and for picking me back up when I'd fall. For 7 years, you watched me grow into a woman. It is incredible to think that you were a witness to my greatest and worst moments. Through graduations, award ceremonies, research grants, surgeries, relationship breakups, job interviews, and birthdays. You were the only one who knew the real Ren, who heard her every word and felt her every heartache. You were never just a dog, Boris. You were extraordinary from the moment that you were born, and I'm the luckiest person in the world to have been chosen by you. I am who I am today because of your unwavering loyalty and love. There are no replacements for that kind of devotion. No words could ever begin to express just how much I miss you each and every day. All I have now are the pictures of you and of us, the way you looked at me, the way you stood with so much pride, the way you rested your head on my hands. Sometimes I reach out my fingers thinking you'll be there. Sometimes I say your name, forgetting that I am alone. Boris, thank you for your service, your duty, your love, and your support. Thank you for everything that you brought into my life and the people closest to me. Thank you for giving me a second chance at freedom. What surgeries could not give, you gave. What help others could not provide, you provided. What human friends could not understand, you always understood. I love you, my sweet boy. Walk on.